I guess that bigger fires mod wasn't such a great idea after all. Today, we are building a new vineyard and monastery, a place where history and mystery grow together. This build was made possible in part by the amazing Sun and Moon Star Factory Grapes of Rad mod. Stay tuned for more to this story. Let's get started. Hello, most awesome Sims 2 fans, and welcome to the channel. I'm Tipsy Mommy Shark. I have been wanting to build a vineyard for a very long time, and the curse of Riverblossom Hills finally gave me the perfect opportunity. Now, Tipsy Mommy is a sommelier, which is a fancy word for a snobby wine person. One of the things I learned in wine school is that throughout history, monks have played a huge role in winemaking. Some of the most famous vineyards and wine traditions have roots connected to monasteries. Here in Riverblossom Hills, we already had a witch, monks who needed a new home, and a farming community just waiting to grow. This vineyard was inevitable. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It helps support the channel and keeps me from re-adding the Bigger Fires mod, which is probably the only thing standing between my Sims and complete disaster. The exterior for our vineyard came together pretty quickly. I spent some time researching old stone vineyards. Insert the picture of my inspiration on the screen. I wanted this lot to feel like it's been here, part of the town's actual history. In my Riverblossom Hills gameplay, I have taken us back when the town was first settled. I imagine it began somewhere in the 16 or 1700s, a small farming community growing into something bigger over time. By the time this vineyard was built, I'm thinking it had to be somewhere 1700s, 1800s, a place where tradition, farming, and old secrets had started taking root. The goal is to eventually bring the town back up to 2004, the era of the Sims 2 games. It's not a perfect timeline, but it gives each generation roughly 100 years to create history for this town and gives the curse something much deeper behind it. I hear you asking, Tipsy, what is this curse? The curse of Riverblossom Hills began with the very first permanent settlement. Some of the details have been lost over time, passed down through whispers and half-remembered stories, but what remains is unsettling. In my Riverblossom Hills, it had its own witch trials in the early days, and something went terribly wrong during that time. There was an accident, and a curse was placed on the land. Ever since, there have been old warnings in the local folklore, saying that if you bury something out behind the old woods, the dead may rise again. Farmers also speak of a blight that can strike without warning, not one that ruins the crops, but one that changes the people who tend them. It begins slowly, a shift in color, a stillness in the skin, a connection to the soil that becomes something more, until eventually you are no longer a farmer at all. Then there are the sudden storms, the heavy rains that wipe out crops and reshape lives. Were blamed by some on nothing more than bad weather, but on others still that believe the curse was holding strong. That's just old talk, but not so much in my Riverblossom Hills. From local curses to issues with my build, I love to have my Sims struggle, and my game is pretty mod heavy because of it. One of my favorite mods is the one that makes the Sims notice the temperature more. As I'm building the vineyard, I am looking for places to add fireplaces and warm spots for my Sims to gather. And that's especially needy because this building is meant to be very old. As you've watched this monastery take shape, you'll see the exterior is kind of in place. So I started to move on to the interior and looked for my areas to add those fireplaces. And some of this is because our monks don't just make wine. They're also running a small adoption agency. Originally, old Father Richard took the baby left behind by the Riverblossom witch's death. That's a mouthful. But since that part of the story was a long time ago, the order has evolved, and now they're more of a boys' home tied to the monastery. But because of that temperature mod, if I don't keep those children comfortable, that social worker's going to show up and not care what decade I think I'm playing in, she's going to take the children. I did some research on old vineyard interiors, but most of what I found had been heavily renovated into modern times. I wanted our space to feel much older, more rustic, like something from the 1700s, and I didn't want it polished by restoration. I, of course, could have downloaded more custom content to better match our specific time period, but the idea is that I am moving forward through time fairly quickly in my story. I decided to work with what I already have and let the build evolve naturally. That said, you're going to notice a few modern conveniences appear that don't really belong in the 17 or 1800s. Things like fire and burglar alarms and even a telephone. That is not a lore choice, that's a game necessity. My burglars mod has them showing up more often, and they are pyromaniacs. They actually burned the monk's last home to the ground with the help of the bigger fires mod, which I have since removed. The phone is simply there so that the household can contact other Sims when needed. It's just required for things to function. As for the Grapes of Rad mod, I will put a link in the description down below should you want to try it for yourself. I thought this was a wonderful little mod that not only adds grape growing to the Sims 2 gardening, but adds full-blown wine production, grape stomping, barrel aging, and finally bottling your own wine. These are sellable should you have open for business, and my monks have recently expanded and now have a little wine shop which should open soon. It's very much set up for medieval style gameplay, and I feel you have to be very patient while your grapes grow and even more patient while the wine ages in barrels, which was very hard for Tipsy Mommy. I also had a bunch of pop-ups, things like vermin bothering my crops, drought, and other agricultural catastrophes that kept me on my toes. This fit perfectly into the cursed vibe that I had going on for my village. Here you are seeing me struggle with the walkways near the front door. This was all thanks to the wisteria. Even with move objects on, they would not cooperate. Once I moved the vines out of the way, I was able to place the paths down and then carefully put my troublesome wisteria back afterwards. I also added a pond, a gardening area, and even some swings. I wanted this monastery to feel like a place of both hard work with small moments of rest, and even some fun for the children. I didn't realize how much work it would take until I got deep into the gameplay. This many grapevines is a lot of maintenance, but visually it was absolutely worth it. Our monks now believe in sacrifice, not fun. This build is available on my Patreon page, no membership required, including all of the Riverblossom cursed content you've seen in this video. Some builds I create are custom content free, and some use it as part of the style and storytelling I'm going for. This one was definitely a build where custom content helped bring the idea to life. There is no version of this build that's custom content free. As always, download it at your own risk, just like I do with my mods. Speaking of mods, one of my new favorites is Anyone Fights Burglars mod. I love it. The link will be in the description down below. I also added the No Relationship with Burglars mod because after everything that has happened, my monks are not interested in forming a relationship with Sims who break into their home and set things on fire. Instead of removing my more frequent pyromaniac burglars mod, I love to lean into the chaos. Now, when the burglars show up at this monastery, my Simmies can defend themselves. They are monks, so I'm sure they believe in forgiveness after the consequences of a good butt kicking for the burglar. As someone with a background in wine, I had a great time designing that big front room in the vineyard as the wine room. It turned out maybe a little too much fun, and I'll tell you more about that shortly. The second space became the kitchen. I wanted the kitchen from the beginning to feel warm and cozy, that space where everybody naturally gathers, especially when the weather turned cold. That's why I had originally chosen that large fireplace. Yes, it needs to be efficient because I have no other heating in there, but it's about atmosphere. It had to feel like the heart of the home. The rest of the rooms use smaller wood burning stoves instead, and this is practical, but still fitting my older rustic vibe that I had going on. I imagine that during winter months and harvest season, Life here would naturally spill outside anyway into the vineyards, gardens, and workspaces. And after playtesting this, I was absolutely right. Nobody ever came inside because the gardens and the vineyards needed so much work. After adding clutter to the kitchen, more of which I probably didn't need but had to have, I started decorating some more outside. I put some swings for our kids in case they needed some fun objects, and started thinking about the spiritual side of this monastery and vineyards. I looked for small winged statues that might represent angels or add a sense of worship to the place around the exterior for our monks. I ended up building a small stand for our angel, and there was a bench near the kitchen door. I felt they would have a dedicated chapel space. It was a monastery after all, so I cleared a small corner on the inside of the building in our main wine room. It was already heavily decorated for wine anyway. I kept it very simple on purpose. A couple of stained glass windows, a pew, a podium for teaching, some flowers, a tapestry. I imagine our monks would have taken a bunch of vows and maybe even one for poverty. So this area did not need to be elaborate, overly decorated, or large. I just wanted it to feel like the most peaceful and meaningful space. Here's some hilarious gameplay information. Our boys would spend hours belching and giggling at the podium instead of being reverent in my church space. But since I am still in an era of no electronics or TV, at least it got their fun need up. The final touches on this build are really just for me. Little details like adding bedding colors that I felt make the sheets look older and more worn, a special floor in the chapel, and candles as our only light source. It's those small details that bring everything together when I'm playing the game. Let me know in the comments down below how you play your Riverblossom Hills or any of your farming communities. I'd love to hear your lot ideas or any mods that you think I might enjoy. Please take a moment to like and subscribe for more Sims 2 content. Thank you all so much for watching. Happy simming, and bye-bye.